Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
He is Greg. I am Nick. We are part of the CLNS Media Network. And of course, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Just a brutal second half of the Bills-Patriots game that we are going to dive into. But before we get into that second half and Drake Maye, Greg, what's your biggest takeaway from that game?
My biggest takeaway, Nick, is, look, the bottom line is no matter what happened, no matter how it happened, what went down, the Patriots showed once again, including the, first matchup with the Bills, Tampa Bay to a certain extent, that the Patriots can go toe to toe with a really good team. And, three things need to happen, where they are depth wise and things like that. One, they need a bulk of their guys, even though I thought you could still use Will Campbell, even though I thought the offensive line in this game might have been the best game for the offensive line in this game, between the run blocking in the first half. And, Drake Maye was not under pressure in this game. That was not an issue in this game. But they need their guys. I mean, Will Campbell would be nice. It's not mandatory at this point. But Robert Spillane, they definitely need. He was one of those positions that we talked about all year, that if the depth gets tested, if you lose a certain amount of guys, like a handful of guys, you're screwed. Spillane was on that list. Milton Williams was on that list. Now it looks like Marcus Jones is pretty beat up. He couldn't even take his pads off by himself in the locker room after the game. So we'll have to see how that goes. But so number one, they need their guys. Number two, they need to play good, solid, efficient football in all three phases. And that did not happen in this game. I thought the special teams was atrocious. I mean, not just for the 3 long kickoff returns, one that, where Schooler's face mask penalty gets put on top of it, but also, before the final series, just a brutal punt return block that 3 Buffalo Bills came in unblocked on Marcus Jones, where maybe he makes a play. We've seen it before. If it's blocked up better, maybe he makes a play, gets you field position, gets people going. Maybe it changes things. They just did not play well enough in all 3 phases. But, and then I would say the next thing that they need that they didn't get in this game, that they did get in Buffalo, was you need Drake Maye to, if not beat Josh Allen, you need him to play to that level. Remember, the reason that they won in Buffalo with a 3-point victory was because Drake Maye, from the last drive of the first half to the end of the game, went to another level. He had like 5 elite plays.
Yeah.
Drake Maye had 1 elite play in this game, his first throw of the game. Other than that, look, he had the runs. Those were nice. They were all designed, well blocked. Those were great, but he didn't make enough elite plays with his arm. He didn't in the second half. It would have been nice for him to pull out a couple plays with his legs. Whether he had the opportunity to do that, I don't know. But Drake Maye wasn't good enough in this game. He was more of, Drake Maye was probably a solid B in the first half. And I would say he was an F in the second half. And that's not on the biggest stage against the best teams. All of that's not going to be good enough. Now, the silver lining is now after Sunday, the Patriots have seen it face to face. That's a good team on the other side, been in a lot of big games. The Patriots now understand what it's going to take to knock out one of these teams, and they'll see another one of these teams on Sunday night. Let's see if they learn the lessons. Let's see if they apply it going forward, because the bottom line is, the silver lining is, this could be a blessing for them that this happened to them, that they saw it, if they learn the lessons and apply them going forward.
We'll get into Drake Maye in a little while because we have a lot to talk about regarding him. I would say, it's it's interesting that there were a number of people, and I think there are a lot of Buffalo Bills fans that I saw on Twitter, which, as we know, isn't really the real world. But there
Right.
were a number of people on Twitter, and it felt like a lot of them from Buffalo, where it was like, oh, the Patriots were exposed. And take a deep breath. Like it's 30 minutes of football. We're not going to excuse it. We have to address the things that went wrong, and we will on this podcast. But I think it's a little outrageous, and it's totally 2025 to like lose your mind and punch the panic button because you had a bad half of football. Like that happens. It happens, and it happens especially when you're going against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Like the Bills, especially this year, they have been an unbelievable second half team, and Josh Allen has been an unbelievable quarterback in the second half specifically. So this was not something that was new to Buffalo. Buffalo's been down before. Buffalo's played nearly flawless in the second half several times this year, and they stepped up. They made the plays. The Patriots didn't. And sometimes that stuff happens. But I don't look at it and go, ooh, they were exposed, because a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about has been stuff we've talked about before, like the red zone defense, not being able to get out of your own way in the red zone on that side of the football. That's been a problem all year long. All year long, they've been one of the worst, and now the worst red zone defenses. So something like that, that's had to be addressed this entire season. It's not like the second half opened our eyes, okay? I would ask you, though, about that second half, Greg. Do you think the team, as Mike Vrabel would say, took a nap?
I do think that they let go of the rope. I think that they had it at halftime and were just sort of, waiting for their coronation. And I mean, just look at the kickoff return that they gave up, how easy that first touchdown drive was for Buffalo. I think they just relaxed a little bit, and you can't do that. And I think hopefully they learn that lesson, that like, if you're going to knock out one of these teams, and there aren't that many of these teams left. I mean,
Yeah.
in terms with Kansas City out, I mean, Buffalo is certainly, I wouldn't call them a great team, but they're a really good team with a really, really good quarterback. And, but you're going to have to look, the Patriots haven't been a good second half team all year, or a team with the lead. Like, they're not good. They're not great from behind, even though there's like no sample size. And they're not great in front as far as like, really, putting their pedal down against, decent teams. And so, they let a lot of teams hang around this year. You do that against Josh Allen, it's not going to be good enough. But yeah, I think that I thought that they relaxed a little bit, and that, and you just do that for a few minutes. You do that on the opening drive, the Bills get it. And then, I'm sure we're going to talk about, I thought one of the biggest plays of the game happened the second down for the Patriots. We'll get into it with the discussion about Drake Maye.
Right.
But, all of a sudden, you don't have a good offensive series, and then suddenly now the Bills are only down 3. And that's because you just relaxed a little bit. And now you're in a dogfight. Now you're losing confidence, and they're gaining confidence.
How much of that do you put on the coaches? How much of that do you put on the players?
I mean, I put most of it on the players. I mean, I don't see anything schematically or, the play calling. There's certainly issues to take from, both. I mean, I would say some of the calls, like, the decision not to account for Josh Allen's legs on, the third down of the opening drive on, 3rd and 3. It just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
The Dalton Kincaid's wide open for 26 yards because somebody screwed up big time, maybe a couple players. The 3rd and goal from the 14, and they call this, I don't know, some sort of soft zone, and Christian Barmore isn't in his rush lane to keep Josh Allen in the pocket. Like, I put most of it on the players. I mean, I just think, Nick, I don't know how you feel about it, but, and I understand it from the fans, because, they love these players. They love Drake Maye, and Drake Maye's this and Drake Maye's that. And I get it. They don't like to criticize the players.
Right.
It's much easier to criticize the coaches. But if the players get all the credit when they win, the players should get a lot of credit a lot of the discredit when they lose. And I just think they didn't play well enough. And I'm putting that on the players. They didn't play well enough for 60 minutes. I'm putting that on the players, and it's on them to be better the next time.
Yeah, I think it's on both, but it's really how you split up the blame pie. And I would put it on, mostly the players. I would. And, again, this is the Twitter reaction, which is not really reality, as I said earlier. But, some people are like, oh, the coaches are, they've got some bad coaching. And somebody tweeted something to me about how, the coaches haven't been good. And I'm like, what are we talking about? This team was 11-2 going into that game. Okay. 11-2. And for everybody who looks at the schedule, we all know the reality of the schedule as well, but we also knew what that schedule was before the season kicked off. And many of us said, hey, if they win 9 games, this is going to be a great season for them. That's and it's not to excuse Sunday's second half. The coaches, they've made some mistakes. I'll get to Josh McDaniels a little bit later because I've got some questions about what he did. But, when you look at the overall product, come on now. I mean, Josh McDaniels has been really freaking good. Mike Vrabel's been excellent. And Zach Core, I'm going to give him some grace. He's not supposed to be the defensive play caller. Okay. He woke up one morning and Terrell Williams was not going to be the DC. And they said, hey, Zach, you're going to be calling the plays. And this guy's been coaching in the NFL for 4 or 5 years. And, that's a very difficult assignment to take over. So I'm not, again, not excusing some of the bad calls. It's just, I kind of expect it when it's the situation that they've got. I think coaching wise, if you're looking at what they've done coaching wise with this football team, I mean, come on, what are we doing? The vast majority of this season, it's been excellent up and down the list. So take a deep breath again. I know 30 minutes of bad football, but take a deep breath. Stefon Diggs said in the locker room, and you touched on this a little bit a few minutes ago, Greg, but I want to hone in on this. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, that they almost needed this loss to learn from it. And, as a veteran in the locker room looking around, he thinks that they will get a lot from what happened to them. Your thoughts on that idea that, hey, man, sometimes some teams might need a loss like this?
I completely agree. And, what's funny is that, going into this game and preparing for either after this game or the Ravens or something like that, and I'm sure you'll accuse me of jinxing the Patriots, but of course. I started to, this is a column that I had written back in my Green Bay days. I wrote in my Boston Globe days where I go back and I look at all the Super Bowl winners and to see how long of a winning streak did they have to win the Super Bowl. And basically the crux of the column would have been the Patriots could really use a loss at some point because you're not, outside of the 2003 Patriots, who I think won 15 games on the way to the straight games on the way to the championship. You're not going to win. The Patriots had won 10 in a row. They had 4 more games. They weren't going to win 17 games in a row to win a Super Bowl or 16 in a row to go to a Super Bowl. It just doesn't happen. It's against all odds. And I thought they needed to drop one. I liked that it was this game and the lessons learned in this game. Like if it would have been the Jets, like let's say the Patriots just didn't show up and lost to the Jets like that. It would have been a little bit of a wake up call. Yeah. But I think to get a mirror put up to yourselves by the Bills, where they expose some of your weaknesses, I think it is a good loss, and I think they needed it, and I think they're gonna hopefully learn a lot from it.
I just look at the big picture of that game itself. You lost by 4 points. Yes, it was an ugly second half, which we'll get into deeper coming up in a minute. but you lost to a divisional opponent by 4 points against a guy who, Josh Allen, has now started to, over the last few weeks especially, taken a few steps towards that MVP conversation after being last year's MVP. You could argue it's him and Matthew Stafford right now, mano a mano after Drake Maye's game on Sunday, as the two leads of the MVP race. And you dominated the first half. You got dominated in the second half. It was great 30 minutes of football to begin the game, bad 30 minutes of football to end the game. So what I take from that is you're pretty close to Buffalo if you play good football. And I'm happy with that. I'm not happy with the second half and what happened on Sunday, but I'm happy with the overall thought process and the overall picture of this football team. And I know it's tough for people because we live and die with every single second and every single week. And Greg and I, we're going through the season, and it is a grind when you're watching film and you're watching other teams, and sometimes you can get caught up in the moment. You get frustrated. I get it. But every once in a while, I think it's decent advice, if not great advice, to pull away from things and just look at the overall picture, take a deep breath, and say, all right, here's what happened on Sunday. All right, for those listening, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like and leave a review. For those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Patriots content. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new video drops. Before we get into the offense and Drake Maye, Greg wants to talk about PrizePicks.
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. As you know, it is the holiday season and the best time of year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It is all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there is one place where it feels good to be right. PrizePicks. My favorite thing about PrizePicks is picking multiple sports in the same lineup. With basketball back, I could put Jaylen Brown, tough one last night, and Drake Maye in the same lineup and root for both. PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Is your fantasy season already over? Yep. My team stunk. Made a late run with Drake Maye, I will say. But with PrizePicks, I don't have to wait until next year's draft. PrizePicks lets you play fantasy football every week. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections every week. No draft required. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right.
And as you listen to Greg, don't forget $50 for the year at BSJ. Greg Bedard, Mike Giardi do great work on the Patriots film and the best sources around. All right, before we get into Drake Maye, I feel the need to just address this for a minute because Race Bannon 8569, I think, is reacting to the title of this podcast. Oh, geez, is Maye supposed to be perfect every game? He still ran for 2 touchdowns. The Patriots lost momentum and got too conservative. We'll get to the too conservative part because I completely disagree with that. I don't know where people are getting that the Patriots got too conservative in the second half. We did not watch the same football game. But as far as Drake Maye, this is going to be a general rule moving forward. And if I'm wrong here, Greg, I don't want to speak for you, but if I'm wrong here, then jump in. Everybody freaking relax. Okay. Greg and I are never expecting a player to be flawless. We never ask a player to be flawless. We do not think that Drake Maye is capable of being flawless probably 98% of the time when he plays football, just like every professional football player. So that's a straw man's argument. Okay. It's a bad premise. Throw it in the trash, pee on it, light it on fire, whatever you want to do. Okay. Nobody's expecting Drake Maye to be flawless. However, it would be disingenuous for Greg or I or anybody else who covers this football team and has a job to tell you what we see if we sit there and go, no problem. Drake Maye was, he was fine. He was okay. When Drake Maye plays badly, it is our responsibility to let you know that he played badly and why he played badly. When he plays great, it is our responsibility to tell you that he played great and why or how he played great. It's as simple as that. Stop reading so much into it. Stop losing your mind because of one criticism of Drake Maye or because we criticize one game. Nobody's expecting him to be Jesus on the football field. We're just telling you what went wrong, how it went wrong, what went right, how it went right. And I'm already feeling it, Greg. I'm sure you're feeling it as well because you have a lot more Twitter followers than I do at Nick C Radio. Already feeling it, where as soon as you tweet something that is a criticism of Drake Maye, there is a contingent of people that lose their ever-loving minds. Oh, what do you expect him to be flawless? Did you not see what he did 3 weeks ago? They wouldn't be 11-3 without him. Greg and I agree with all of that. Mm-hmm. He's been mostly terrific. I don't know how many times Greg and I have waxed poetic about Drake Maye's level of football this year. I don't know how many times, but because of the algorithms, because what is negative is amplified more on social media, people see the criticisms more often than they see the credit. And I just think everybody's got to relax a little bit. Nobody's expecting Maye to be flawless, but we are here to tell you, you know what? He wasn't good on that play. Or you know what? He wasn't good in the second half. And Greg, I'll tell you right now, I did not think Drake Maye was good on Sunday. I thought he was especially bad in the second half. How did you evaluate him?
Completely agree. I'm surprised by it. And I totally agree with your comments. I mean, I do not expect Drake Maye to be perfect. Tom Brady had games like this, and I had criticism, for him, and it's justified. It's fact based. It has nothing to do with what's happened in the past or what might happen in Baltimore on Sunday night. It's about this one game. It was really one half.
Yep.
And against a good team in elements, it happens. And just it's funny because I went back and my breakdown of the first Bills game. I said I wrote about there's another reason why the Patriots end up winning this game when the Dolphins and the Saints fell short. This was, I think, against the Bills. The Patriots have Drake Maye and the other teams don't. His play from the end of the first final drive of the first half until the conclusion of the game was nothing short of outstanding. It was like he just elevated in front of our eyes. So, he was the reason they won in Buffalo. Okay. And just in this game, for people who don't know, I grade every single play like it's its own thing. I write it down. Then at the end of the day, I go back and I look and, plus side, negative side, it gives me sort of an indication of how people played. I ran out of room on my negative side for Drake Maye in the second half. It was one of the worst halves of football, certainly that he's had. One of the worst halves of football I've graded. I mean, it was a little bit of everything. A lot of it was decision making. I was talking to an NFL offensive coordinator to sort of, see what he saw because he watches a lot of film. And, I guess the Bills are one of the top disguised teams in the league. I thought they were going to rip through without Benford. It didn't happen, but, it really started from, I mentioned it earlier, the first drive. Okay. So the Bills come out, they score to open up the first half. The Patriots have, second down, and Henderson ran for -1. So it's 2nd and 11. They have Diggs on this little sort of like return route into the flat. They got the defense that they wanted. Tre'Davious White was the zone corner on that side of the field. And Stefon Diggs is wide open. They had run this play. They run this play all the time. They had run it earlier. Mac Hollins caught it, went up the sideline. This time they got the benefit that Tre'Davious White completely turned around to defend the vertical route on that side of the field. You're trying to put that guy into conflict. If he goes to Diggs, then you go to the vertical, what have you.
Right.
So Diggs is wide open. And Tre'Davious White, his back is turned the entire time. Even after the play's over, his back is still to Stefon Diggs. Now, Maye throws it low into the inside. Okay. That's problem number one. If he throws it on the outside shoulder, Stefon Diggs takes that ball and probably goes another 10 or 15 yards up the field. Now they flip the change. Now they're near midfield, changes the game. Hunter Henry also, his job is to keep Joey Bosa on the inside so Drake can get outside. So that didn't really work. A little bit of pressure, what have you. But it's, those type of plays. And then, third down on that drive, Diggs, who I'm sure we're going to get into, Maye sort of locked in on Diggs. Diggs runs a wrong route, in my opinion. He turns outside instead of inside. I don't know why he did that. By that time, Drake can't come back and see, Mac Hollins open on a crosser that might have gotten the first down, takes a sack. I split it between Diggs and Maye. So, that was just a small sampling of just like it wasn't working. And, Drake had a lot of those types of plays in the second half.
I'll give you some more examples quickly here. 3rd and 25. Everybody remembers the Mac Hollins chuck and duck, the questionable contact by Tre'Davious White ends up being a pick. That decision is a bad decision by Drake Maye. And J.J. Watt says during the game, oh, that's an air punt, which, look, you have two options here. If you're Drake Maye, it's 3rd and 25. You can look at this and say, you know what? We're not going to convert. I'm going to throw it deep. I'm going to give my guy a shot, and we'll see what happens. Maybe it's a defensive pass interference. Maybe Mac Hollins makes a play. Maybe it's picked. But if it's picked, oh, well, who cares? It'll be down inside the 10-yard line. Or you can look at what the Bills are doing. And what the Bills are doing on that play is they're giving all sorts of cushion. And Hunter Henry is wide ass open. He's just running down the seam about 10, 15 yards. I don't know if it's Poyer. It might be Poyer, who is still a good 5 to 8 yards off of Henry. Meanwhile, Ramondre Stevenson is running a crossing route. He was lined up as a wide receiver on the play. He's running a crossing route. He beats his guy. He's open. So Drake Maye has to make a decision here. It's either I'm going to go all or nothing downfield to Mac Hollins, or I'm going to throw the football to Hunter Henry, get 15 yards. Maybe Buffalo misses a tackle. Maybe he gets even more yards, but I'm not really trying to convert the 25 yards, because if I can get 15 to 20 yards, I'm in field goal range, baby. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at the cushion on Hunter Henry. I'm hitting him, and I'm hoping Hunter can get a couple of extra yards. And now at least I have a decision to make on 4th down. Either go for it, or we can kick a long field goal with Andy Borregales. Or he can hit Ramondre Stevenson, who is, again, being trailed in the coverage, and nobody's within 15, 20 yards of Dre, and maybe he turns upfield and makes something happen. Instead, it's a predetermined play by Drake, because as soon as he steps back in that pocket, he's not even looking. He's flinging it down to Hollins. Bad decision.
I completely agree with you. Like, he had, I actually think on that play, and I think it was Tampa Bay. Was Tampa Bay when Demario Douglas caught a ball deep down the middle against cover 2, but they had the same sort of route that time. He could have. Douglas was the better deep option. I think they had a chance if he hummed it in there.
Yes.
But I agree with you. The check down to Henry or Stevenson might have picked up the first down, might have gotten you in the field goal range. So I did not like that decision. In real time, I thought the same thing. It's just a punt, not a big deal. I had him for a throw to Henry. We talked about the decision on the 2 throws to Henry. One was high. A throw/decision to Mac Hollins when I have Stefon Diggs open. Decision, he took a sack. that 0-yard sack that Drake Maye. First of all, he left the pocket, and Stevenson's wide open for a check down. There was a decision where he had Kayshon Boutte. That was I don't know if it was a 3rd down.
Yes,
it was.
Let me jump
when he
in.
threw to Travion Henderson.
Yeah, let me jump in. It was the final drive of the game on offense. It's a 3rd and 5. And that, again, Greg, is similar to what he did with Hollins. It was predetermined. He saw Henderson, and they had Henderson going on a wheel route. He thought that Henderson was going to be defended by somebody else, probably the
by
linebacker.
a linebacker. They had defended that. They had set that up earlier where I think at least 2 or 3 times the backs had a linebacker on them. That time they switched and Taron Johnson took him.
Yeah, so Drake, again, this is predetermined. This is not like I'm going to react to what's happening in real time, because as soon as he drops back, he's got his mind made up. He's going to throw the wheel route to Travion Henderson. Henderson is never open. He's not open at the beginning of the route. He's not open during the route. He's not open after the football is thrown. He's never open. It is blanketed. It is covered. It has no chance of working. Meanwhile, Kayshon Boutte beats his man off the line of scrimmage on a crossing route, is open. I mean, he's open, baby. And if you hit him on the run, he might get 15, 20 yards. But Drake predetermines it and just lets it loose like he did it. Same thing with the Hollins play. And because of that, you don't make the right football play. And so those are the types of plays that we're talking about. The sack that he takes. He also had Kyle Williams wide open. I mean, there's 3.5 seconds in the pocket. The pocket's clean. He's got Williams on the left side. Williams runs the route. Nobody's close to him. If Drake hits him, it could be a 25, 30-yard gain. Drake, I don't even know if he looks at him or not. It looks like he's looking at him, but for some reason, looks like he wants to pull the trigger, then doesn't, then takes the sack. Terrible sack to take down, 35-31 on a 2nd and 5 in that moment. And then he also bailed early, on that final drive before the Travion Henderson play on the 2nd and 5. That's the 0-yard sack that Greg is talking about. I thought he bailed way too early. The pocket was fine. I thought all he had to do was shift a little bit to the left and he would have been fine. But he bails right away. And as soon as he bails, you either hit Ramondre Stevenson or you got to do something. And he didn't do really anything. He just ran to the sidelines and took the 0-yard sack. So those are the types of plays that we're talking about. And if we're going to have the conversation, by the way, of Drake Maye being an MVP, we're not saying, I saw somebody say, they scored 31 points. I said that on Locked On Patriots. Yes, they scored 31 points. The offense was not the problem at the end of the day. You score 31 points, you should be able to win that football game at home with the lead that they had. However, when you're going against Josh Allen and he's going banana land in the second half, we're not asking Drake Maye to be flawless again. But if you make a couple of plays, if Drake makes 1 or 2 plays in that second half, the game is very likely different. And so if we're going to have the MVP conversation and we're going to put Drake Maye up to the standard, which he has deserved, he has earned the MVP conversation, the standard is set. And so when he falls below that and he has an awful second half like he had on Sunday, it is fair to point it out. Simple as that. No, nobody's saying he's the reason they lost this game. So stop putting words in other people's mouths. And I would also say, by the way, the title is not clickbait. It's a question. Was Patriots' loss to Bills on Drake Maye? Question mark. It's not a statement. It doesn't say Drake Maye lost the game to the Buffalo Bills. Drake Maye crumbles and Bills beat Patriots. Asking the question. Diggs' game. Before I get to one question about McDaniels, then we jump to the defense quick. You thought it was kind of weird the way Stefon played.
I did. First of all, credit to the Bills. They doubled him a lot, especially on third downs. And, I think that kind of I don't think Maye has really seen that before, even though more and more teams are doing that. They are doubling Diggs and Henry or giving them extra attention, which they should. That's what I would do if I was defending the Patriots. Diggs, there were like 3 times that he ran routes. I mean, normally he's been really good at this where, in the Patriots system, like if the coverage dictates what routes, Stefon Diggs is going to run. And, there was one time where, there was inside the cornerback had inside leverage. And normally like Stefon Diggs would see that and then bust outside, and Drake Maye was waiting for him to do it. And he didn't do it. He turned inside. There was another time he did the same sort of thing. Drake Maye's looking for him. And instead of, just turning to the inside, he turns to the outside. He's dead at that point. The 4th down play was a complete cluster. He had no idea what he was doing. He had no idea, what route he was running. Like, was it supposed to be 2 crossers between him and Hunter Henry, 2 return routes to the outside? Diggs did like nothing. He just like stopped. And then him and Hunter Henry ended up in the same place. To this point, Diggs to me is just he's a veteran, savvy zone sitter in most circumstances that he could just go up, find the void in the zone, turn around, sort of like Hunter Henry, even though he didn't do that in this game. Diggs is, I would say, I don't know if it's his age, the length of the season coming off the knee injury. Everyone's going to, go back to week 5 and look what he did against the Bills. That was a long time ago. Stefon Diggs coming off ACL surgery has played a lot of football since then. To me, he doesn't look the same. And I'm not saying, he could be hurt. He got banged up against the Jets. Could be fatigue. I don't know. But, if he gets pressed or guys are physical with him, he's having a tough time running away from anyway. There was one, I think it was the first pass of the game. You go back and look at it, and Shaq Thompson's on him, and Diggs doesn't really do anything. You would expect Diggs to dust a old linebacker like Shaq Thompson. He doesn't do that there. So, I'm a little bit concerned about Diggs.
This is why when we talked about the trade deadline, this is why the Patriots made the decision to keep their picks. And this is why Greg and I have discussed the age of this team, the free agents that you brought in. And I've said this multiple times. You put a Band-Aid on a lot of positions. And when you look at the shape of this team moving forward, you're going to have a lot of spots on this roster that you need to figure out moving forward. This year's been great. This year has been terrific. But Stefon Diggs is in his 30s, and he might be wearing down as the season goes on. Robert Spillane is, I think, 29, Greg, or close to it. Mm-hmm. He comes up with an injury this week. You're asking a lot of Harold Landry, and he gets rolled up on at Tennessee. Hasn't been the same guy. Calebon Chason, because you're thin at edge, he's played a ton of snaps. Has not been the same guy the last several weeks. So, you're asking a lot of these guys. Carlton Davis is getting closer to, 30. He's 28, 29 years old. Morgan Moses is 34. So, you're seeing some of that. You're seeing some of the bruises and scars of a football season, especially when you play for 13 straight weeks. You're seeing some of that. All right, quickly. I hated Josh McDaniels abandoning the run in the third quarter. I don't know why. After you run for 177 yards in the first half, you call one run play out of the first 10 the first 10 offensive plays. It doesn't make any sense to me. There were opportunities to call more run plays. The Bills were playing too high safety a decent amount, and still they didn't run the football. So I thought, again, people are saying that Josh got conservative or the Patriots got conservative. I completely disagree. I thought that they walked away from the run game. It might be a little overthinking. Okay, well, we killed them on the run game in the run game, so we're going to kind of, zig when they're looking to, for us to zag or whatever the case may be. But I don't get it. I don't get, when you run for 177 yards, you go into the second half and you're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to throw the football. I get it. Be balanced somewhat. But I thought they abandoned the run. Made no sense to me. Ramondre Stevenson had one single touch in the entire second half after I thought he was really good in the first half. And I also did not understand why the Patriots just did not run a lot of play action. Like, to me, Greg, that game to me screamed, hey, we're running it down their throat. Let's continue to run down their throat until they prove that they can stop us in the run game consistently. Not just one play on a first down, but let's see if they can consistently stop us. Let's continue to go big personnel. Let's run the football down at them, and let's throw some play action in. And it was as if Josh McDaniels got too deep into his own head, went out there in the second half, and I hated the third quarter approach. I hated it. I thought you went away from what made you great in the first half offensively, and it was because you were running the football and they could do nothing about it. So I don't know what McDaniels was doing. I was frustrated. I thought there were several moments where they could have run the football and decided not to. So it is what it is. Their second half offense is kind of declining. If you look at the last, several games here, I just don't get it. I thought, Buffalo did not prove they could stop you running the game, running the football. I just, you have a big lead, and it's almost as if Josh said, you know what? And I know he didn't really do this. I've been criticized for being too conservative in the second half and running the football when we have a lead. Let's go out there and throw the ball. You don't have to, Josh.
Yeah. Look, I think that's fair. I mean, it's fair. A couple of things that are interesting about this game is, and what's interesting about it is like it worked like gangbusters in the first half. I mean, they didn't really change their approach as far as what I'm about to mention. So their under center rate in this game was 31.4%. That was their lowest since week 1, I think, when they lost to the Raiders. Okay. It was even worse in the second half. It was a lot of shotgun. There were a lot of snaps where Stevenson and Henderson were on the field together. I don't know if they were trying to take advantage of the Bills linebackers or what. So it's hard for me to be, I like it when Maye's under center more. There was obviously a reason why they did it in this game. And like I said, it worked like gangbusters in the first half. So it's hard for me to say it was the wrong approach because it didn't work in the second half. So, that's one thing. I understand what you're saying, and I don't think you're, totally wrong about it. I mean, it is sort of, they only had 2 possessions in that third quarter. I think they had like, I don't know, 8, I'm looking at it like 8 or 9 plays, I think in the third quarter. I don't know, 10 plays, something like that.
Yeah, 10 plays, 1 run. 10 plays, 1 run. What are we doing?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at it because, a lot of those, was Drake were runs called and Drake alerts it at the line and they do something different. That could be it. I do think that, a lot of these coaches, they did throw the first 2 passes of the second drive of the third quarter were to the backs. Stevenson got 16, then a little check down to Travion Henderson. A lot of coaches view those as the extension of the run game. So maybe, Josh thought it was, that was the way to go. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's a fair criticism. Maybe things would have been different. Like I said, that first drive out of the third quarter, those 2 plays, especially the second down play, they go a little bit differently. Do they get back to, doing what they're doing? I don't know. But yeah, it would have been nice to see more of the run game after what they did in the first half. But yeah.
Pissed me off. Josh, you've been great this year. And I thought Josh was cooking in the first half, by the way. I thought he was tremendous in the first half, attacking the edges, threw in the wrinkle of the trick play, the low red zone runs with Drake Maye. I thought Josh was fantastic in the first half. I just didn't quite understand the third quarter. All right, don't forget PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. How did the wheels fall off defensively in the second half, Greg?
They couldn't get off the field. They had opportunities to hold the Bills to field goals or to get off the field. It's not on the offense all the time to extend drives and stay on the field. They kind of had to do it. I just thought a lot of it, when Cook, when you allow the Bills to run the ball with Cook and then, Josh Allen can do what he needs to do, you're in a bad position. I thought the run defense was just terrible in this game. Mike Vrabel talks about walling up, and what he means by, when you're watching it on TV or on the All-22, like when you're playing good run defense, you want the entire front line of the defense to look like it's on the same level. In this game, they were all jacked up. You got people going up the field, getting shoved, double teamed down. Kyrus Tonga, I don't know if he's still hurt or what. I thought he was awful in this game. Barmore was not good in this game. Corey Durden's getting pushed around. The Bills just sort of had their way up front. That's a, pretty physical line up there, and imposed their will. And then you have guys like, the Patriots also missed a bunch of tackles. Jack Gibbons was a day late and $1 short, where Spillane wouldn't have been. So, it just wasn't good. And then they give up, they have a blown coverage like they did on the one that we were talking about earlier, the Kincaid one. They give up the touchdown. They give up contain, and then it's Gibbons on a tight end in the end zone. Not good. It just wasn't good all the way around.
It's like different things throughout the second half that, like, if you're watching the game film, it just drives you crazy. I agree with you, Greg. The interior defensive line was getting just pushed around. Durden, Tonga, as you said, uncharacteristically, Tonga's been great this year, but it might be the injury, the chest thing that's going on, but he was not good. He was getting thrown around. Joshua Farmer got thrown around a couple of times and looked lost. And Barmore, look, some of it is Barmore being doubled. Okay, he's being doubled a decent amount. But when you have these opportunities one-on-ones, you're Christian Barmore. You got to make some plays. You've got to have an impact. And the second half, he was non-existent. A couple plays in the first half. Second half, I don't know where the hell he went. He just disappeared, and just not good enough. So Milton Williams obviously is a huge loss. We talked about it at the beginning. Robert Spillane is a huge loss. I thought Gibbons was bad. So yeah.
You combine that with, I thought the Patriots had some creative pressures in the first half. I don't know. They didn't go back to those, and they just left it up to Harold Landry and Kayvon Chason, and they got owned by Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown. I mean, those are two really good players, especially Brown when he's healthy. He was not good in the first matchup, but you get shoved around against the run, and then you can't really pressure Josh Allen. Like, good luck. That's why you can't get off the field.
All right, quickly before you run, good games, bad games, guys that stood out to you on Sunday.
So I thought Stevenson, look, Henderson, the 2 touchdowns. Look, I mean, they were great. He showed off his speed. I mean, obviously he had a good game. I thought Stevenson he was consistently good.
Yeah.
In this game,
one touch in the second half. So
yeah,
there was that.
Yeah, good idea. Let's see. I thought Jared Wilson. I thought the entire offensive line was pretty good.
I agree. Venarian Lowe, a little sketchy in the second half, had a few rough reps, but I agree with you. I thought overall they were good.
Yeah. Pressure was not an issue in this game.
No.
Kayshon Boutte with the catch. He had a nice run block on Drake Maye's TD, I think it was. That's it for good on the offense. Defense, I thought Christian Ellis was really good in this game. Now, he did give up a touchdown on the Cook pass.
Yep.
Secondary, Woodson was okay.
I thought Carlton Davis was good.
Yeah, I have him for a missed. He had the missed sack, and then he had that penalty, depending on how you view the penalty. Nick might have ignored it altogether. I can't believe we haven't talked about the refs, but that's where we're about to end. So I'm going to escape for this week. Maybe we talk about it on Thursday. The bad list: Drake Maye, Stefon Diggs, not good enough. They need more out of him in this game. Hunter Henry, stuff, hurry, drop, even though that ball, I gave that a bad throw and a drop. Like, there was no reason to throw that ball where he did. Like, Drake just needs to lead him. Put it on his front shoulder. He catches it. Like, I don't know. Kairos Tonga, bad. Barmore, bad. Joshua Farmer, bad. Corey Durden, he was all right. He was sort of even. Jack Gibbons, not good.
No.
Marcus Jones, rough one. And Jalen Hawkins, rough one. Oh, and then also the special teams. Special teams were hot garbage.
Thought they were great. I enjoyed it. Did you all enjoy it? Penalties and kickoff returns. Come on, Jeremy Springer. Get your guys going, okay?
Yeah, Springer.
Springer. All right. Greg's got to run. We'll talk to you later in the week. Preview the big-time Ravens game coming up on Sunday night. Until then, be well.